But we start with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and US President Donald Trump says he will push to regain some Ukrainian territory during his planned talks with Vladimir Putin, but warns both sides may have to cede land to achieve peace. Trump confirmed Ukraine rejected a Russian land swap proposal, yet he still expects what he called a constructive summit. Let's now have a listen to what President Trump has had to say.
So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war, you got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. You know, we had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in, and I get along with Zelensky, but, you know, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversations. Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well.
Well, this comes as President Trump also hinted that Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky could join the talks and said his priority will be securing a ceasefire. Zelensky, however, insists there is no sign Russia wants peace, warning that Moscow is moving troops for a new offensive. Let's now listen to Volodymyr Zelensky.
З Україною. Також сьогодні була доповідь розвідки і військового командування про те, на що розраховує Путін і до чого реально готується. Зокрема, це і приготування воєнні. Він точно не готується до припинення вогню і війни. Путін налаштований тільки на те, щоб подати зустріч з Америкою як свою особисту перемогу. І далі продовжувати діяти так, як і раніше. Тиснути на Україну так, як і раніше.
On the other hand, European leaders are set to hold talks with Trump ahead of the summit, aiming to coordinate a common approach. The Kremlin says it sees prospects for new trade and cooperation if the meeting goes well. The high-stakes summit could reshape the battlefield or expose the deep divisions that remain. Well, joining us to discuss both of these massive talking points, Shruti Dasgupta, an international affairs expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Shruti, as always, a pleasure to have you on the programme. Let's first look at Donald Trump's statement. So much said there, but the main takeaway from this, he acknowledges that there may be concessions of land from both Russia and Ukraine. What does that quite mean, given the fact that Russia has invaded Ukraine and taken around 20% of Ukraine? What is the land that Russia will be conceding?
Well, greetings. Thank you so much for inviting me. I understand that this is a kind of like a hoax being sold to the rest of the world, that, you know, only Zelensky will not be making the compromise. Putin will also be compromising. The land that they're probably saying that Russia will give up is probably the Ukrainian land that Putin doesn't want to hold, or is not essential for his plans for Ukraine. So this is not a Russian land that they would be giving up. This would be the Ukrainian land. Although there is a Kaliningrad question that keeps propping up, because there's a small sliver of land right there between Belarus, Poland, in that area. So that small sliver does become a very giant pain for the European nations, because it is Russia's armed zone from where it can impact the Europeans very heavily if it ever decides to get vicious. But that's not something that I think Putin will be willing to give up. The only thing that I can see in giving up is the already held Ukrainian land. And mind you, it will not be Crimea.
Yes, absolutely. And Shruti, in that instance, Volodymyr Zelensky said categorically that he won't be ceding any Ukrainian land to Russia. Does this